Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to the part 2 of audit of consolidated financial statements. Let's continue after a break. So in the first part, what we have understood so far, we have understood everything about the section number 129.3 provisions, section number 129 subsection 4 provision. Then we also understood the framework of preparation of consolidated financial statements, that if you are following if you are following the accounting standards, then it is going to be division 1. If it is accounting standard, it is going to be division 1, and if it is INDAS, then it is going to be division 2. Division 2 of what? Companies Act 2013 schedule 3 framework. Then also we have understood 129 subsection 4, as we have already discussed. We also understood the AGM, in the AGM of the parent company, along with the its own separate financial statement, along with the consolidated financial statement. Now the separate financial statements of the components are also going to be taken care of by the parent company only. Then we also understood the exemption from consolidation for the, you can say that a company which is a intermediate wholly owned subsidiary or a partially owned subsidiary. If you are a wholly owned subsidiary, then you need to satisfy the two conditions, that neither you are listed in India nor you are listed outside India, or the second condition is your parent company, immediate parent company, should be located in India, and they are filing the returns and financial statements with the ROC, and they have prepared their financial statements in accordance with the applicable framework, right? And if you are a partially owned subsidiary, the both the conditions are required to be same, but the extra condition is to the non-holding members. To the which members? The non-holding members, the company must have given a notice in writing, like asking about their objection, that if they don't have any objection, if the company does not prepare any kind of consolidated financial statement laid down in the AGM. That we also understood. Then we understood some differences in the definitions between the definitions of control, joint venture, joint control, subsidiary, as per AS and as per IND-AS. And then we also understood the parent's responsibility. So quickly, let's wrap up the parent responsibility. There are total 7 main parent responsibilities. So parent is also responsible for the preparation of consolidated financial statement. Parent is also responsible for the identification of its components and the inclusion of the financial information in the consolidated financial statement. Parent company is also responsible for identifying its reportable segments. Parent company is also responsible for identification of the related parties and related party transaction. Parent company is also responsible for obtaining the accurate and complete information financial in all its components like subsidiaries as joint ventures. Parent is also responsible consolidation adjustments, and parent is also responsible for what? Is also responsible for conversion of gap or harmonization of accounting policies if the component and the parent company are having the different caps or different accounting policies, right? So these are the total 7 prime responsibilities of the parent. Now, when we talked about the responsibilities of an auditor, we also understood the first thing. What are the auditor's objective? Auditor's objective number 1 is to ensure that parent ensure that the financial statement, consolidated financial statements, are prepared as per applicable FRF. Then what is objective number 2 is to express an opinion on the truthness and fairness of what? Consolidated financial statements. Sure that a section number 140 subsection 1 duty to inquire has been complied with, and section number 143 to ensure to can comment on the various certain matters. Then the auditor, the consolidated financial statements auditor, is also having some responsibilities for the compliance of various standards. As per SA 300, he has to ensure, make his plan in such a way that he can complete the audit of CFS in a T manner. Do you remember T? Timely, efficiently, and effective manner. So just a revision, just to wrap up, so that we can continue with the flow in this lecture. He also has to have a good understanding of the internal control system, accounting system, and the IT system, so that he can decide his NTE of audit procedures. Then he also has to apply his professional judgment, assuming that what kind of risks he is going to face when he's going to do the audit of CF, and he has to ensure that he should try to make his risk assessment procedures in such a manner so that he can reduce the risk to the lowest acceptable level, right? After that, in the CFS audit, we also have to understand as an auditor that the same applicable, same financial reporting framework which is applicable to your standalone financial statements are also applicable to your consolidated financial statement. Then we also have to think that if the parent auditor is not the auditor of the component, then the parent auditor sometimes have to make a choice whether to use the work of the component or not to use the work of a component. If he thinks that he can do the complete audit on his own, then he may think of using the work of a another auditor. Then SS 600 also will be applicable. But if he thinks that he can manage the whole audit on his own, then in that case he need not use the work of an other auditor, right or not? Then SS 600 will not be compliant, and SS 580 is also applicable here. The CFS auditor has to ensure that to obtain the obtain from the parent management or parent TCWG three declarations, WRL रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन लेटर ही हैज टू ऑब्टेन. और उसमें क्या लिखा होगा सर? उसमें लिखा होगा declaration number 1 कि they take the full responsibility, they take the full responsibility of preparation of financial statement, and they have also declared that ki financial statements are as per applicable financial reporting framework, and they also declare that ki they have considered all the important matters when it comes of financial statement of consolidated financial statement. Then the very and the highly important topic called SA 320. What he has to ensure of SA 320? This is just a revision which is going on. So remember one thing, the more and more revision we'll do, the more and more concepts will get embedded in our head. So as per SA 320, what you need to do is every component auditor might have already applied his materiality concept. They might have already computed their materiality while doing the audit of their components. In the same way, if you're a CFS auditor, you also have to ensure that you are also or computing the materiality concept for a group as a whole, and you have to apply that computation of your materiality concept while doing the you know while checking or while assessing the appropriateness of consolidated financial statements adjustments. Now see, the most two important points, the most very two important points which I told you are this points. Now in the point number this, I already told you, if there is a component, if there is a component but that is immaterial component, but in that immaterial component also the auditor of the component has given any kind of modification, any kind of reservation, or any kind of qualification, then as a CFS auditor, in your CFS audit report, it is your responsibility that you have to include it as it is. All the modifications, reservations, and all the qualifications kept by the component auditor are required to be included as it is. You are no allowed to ignore it when it comes to the qualification modifications and all. You may ignore if he has not kept any kind of qualification or any kind of modification, but if qualification, modification, or reservation is there, then as a CFS auditor, you are not allowed to ignore it. You have to, as it is, you have to add it in your CFS audit report. Clear, everyone? And we also understood about the auditor's report responsibility relating to other financial information. Now, what is the auditor's responsibility relating to other financial information? Sometimes the auditor has to ensure that there might be, there might be other financial informations also he has to gather. Sir, what kind of other financial information? Sometimes the components and the parents accounting policies are different, so he has to ensure that the harmonization of policies have very correctly. Sometimes the components gap is different and the parents gap is different, so he has to ensure that the components gap has been converted as per the parents gap for the ease of doing the audit. And sometimes he has to also put a very lot of pressure while understanding the consolidation adjustments also, ki whether the company has computed the goodwill or the capital reserve or the minority interest. You know that in the FR you already have these topics. Whenever the consolidation takes place, we have to calculate the goodwill or capital reserve at the time of acquisition only. That is one time calculation. And at the same point of time, you also have to calculate how much part of equity is attributable to the minority interest as per those companies which are following accounting standards, and it is non-controlling interest for those companies which are not following the accounting standards if they're following the IND AS. That is called consolidation adjustment. And auditor also have some responsibility to ensure that sometimes what happens if you are a component, right, and if you are a parent company. Suppose you are a component company and you are a parent company. Parent company's financial year is different. Component company's financial year is different. Whether the difference is coming or not. When the both the entities, which is holding company and a subsidiary company, they are not having the same financial year, it becomes very difficult to do the consolidation at that point of time. So that is what we call it as subsequent events taken place between this time. Between this time, whatever the subsequent events taken place, so that adjustments also auditor has to take care of. So we are going to talk about these kind of adjustments in a very detailed manner in our coming topic when we'll start with the consolidation, right? Next thing what we have to understand, next thing what we have to understand is audit the consolidation. What is the next thing we have to understand? How to audit the consolidation. This is a topic where we left in the part 1, and now we are going to start with the part 2. Okay, now it's a very easy topic. Now see, you are an auditor of a parent company. Am I correct? You are an auditor of a parent company, but at the same point of time, you are an auditor of consolidated. So when you were the auditor of only parent company, your responsibility was restricted to understand the structure of parent and to understand the controls of the parent company. But now your responsibility is bigger. You are an auditor of consolidated financial statements. Now, when you are an auditor of consolidated financial statement, you don't only have to understand the structure of a parent now, you have to understand the structure of a group as a whole. So, what is the first thing the auditor has to do while doing the audit of consolidation? He should gain a very proper understanding of group structure. He should gain the very proper understanding of which structure? Group structure. He should also gain a proper understanding of group controls. Sir, what do you mean by group controls? IT controls, general controls, and application controls. Are you getting the point or not? Now it's no more about an individuality, it's about a group now. So what is the first responsibility of the auditor? Auditor shall have a good understanding of the group structure. Auditor should have a good understanding about the group controls. Group controls are of three types: IT controls, are you getting a general controls, and application controls. Either they are manual controls or they are automatic controls. He also requires to have a good understanding of accounting policies of its parent and its components. As I already told you, there might be some cases where the accounting policies of the parent are different from the accounting policies of a component. So auditor should have a good understanding of accounting policies of the parent as well as the accounting policies of the components, and he should also understand the process of translation of foreign components financial statements. Listen to this very carefully. Now listen to this very carefully. Sometimes if your subsidiary is located in US, let's take an example. Your subsidiary is located in US. So being in US, is that subsidiary going to follow Indian GAAP or US GAAP? They're going to follow the US GAAP. But that subsidiary is going to be consolidated by the Indian parent, or that subsidiary is going to be consolidated by the which parent? Indian parent. So we have to ensure that we should translate the financial statements of that US based subsidiary into the Indian rupees as per the Indian gaps. That is what do you mean by point number 5. So what is the point number 5 here, everyone? Understanding the process of translation of foreign components financial statements, if any. Because remember one thing, when there's a difference, when there's a difference in the gap followed by the parent and the components have to change their financial statement as per whose gap? Parents gap. So we have to translate the foreign components financial statements to be adjusted in consolidation. So what are the four things we understood? The first thing what we understood while doing the audit of the consolidation, auditor should have or shall have a good understanding of the group structure. He should have a good understanding of the group controls, that is IT controls, general controls, and application controls. He should have a good understanding of the accounting policies of both parent as well as what? Components. And he should also have knowledge, or he should also know the process or understand the process, how the foreign component is going to be translated as per the Indian parent financials. Are you getting the point? So we have to transfer their foreign gap financial statements into the Indian gap financial statement. And what is the next two responsibilities the auditor should have while doing the audit of consolidation? He should determine the nature, time, and extent of his audit procedures on the basis of risk of material misstatements. Tell me one thing, guys. Consolidation is going to be a huge process or not? Yes, sir. Consolidation is going to be a huge process. Now, listen to this very carefully. When the consolidation is going to be a huge process, there will be so many chances of frauds and errors. There will be a risk of material mistake. The auditor should understand the risk of material misstatements of the consolidation first, and accordingly, he shall decide his nature, time, and extent of his audit process. That is also one of the responsibility of an auditor while doing the audit of CFS. Clear, everyone? And he should also determine the extent of use of whose work, other auditors' work, and shall coordinate his work accordingly. So there are total 7 things what you have to remember. There are total 5 or 6 things you have to remember while doing the audit of consumer. Point number one, have a better understanding of group structure. Point number two, have a good understanding of group controls, which includes IT controls, general controls, and application controls. Have a good understanding of the accounting policies of the parent, what they are using, and accounting policies of the components. Fourth, have a good understanding of the knowledge. You should have the knowledge of processing or translation of the foreign components financial statements, if any. Are you getting it? Because if they are following the US gap, we have to transfer them into the Indian gap. You should also try to understand the risk of material misstatements which are going to be present when the consolidation will take place, so that according to that ROMM, you can decide your nature, time, and extent of audit procedures. And you should also decide whether you are going to use the work of another auditor or not. And if you have decided, ensure that you have worked with them. Clear, everyone? So these are known as the total 6 or 7 the responsibilities which the auditor has to establish while doing the audit of an consolidation. Crystal clear, everyone? Yes, sir. We are clear. Now, very and highly important topic I will suggest you. It is a highly important topic when it comes to the. What do you mean by this topic? The name of the topic is known as completeness of component. Sir, what do you mean by completeness of? It's a very simple. First, the what the auditor has to do is, auditor in this topic is trying to understand whether the management has included all its components while doing the consolidation or not. Did it include all its associates or not? Did it include all its subsidiaries or not? Or did it include all its joint ventures or not? That is what the auditor has to see or not. It is a very important thing what the auditor has to take care of. He cannot ignore this thing. Now listen to this very carefully. In this case, to check the completeness of the components, what the auditor has to do. That point number one. Auditor shall first obtain the list of all the components from the parent manager. Bhaiya, give me the list of all the components which you think that they are going to be considered for the consolidation purpose. So what do you mean by components? Associates, subsidiary, joint ventures. Auditor should obtain the list of all the components of the parent's manager. Point number one. Point number two, he shall, or while doing the audit, he should always keep an alertness. He should always keep an eye which components have been included and which components have not been the parent. And if the components have not been included by the parent, is there any genuine reason behind not including it in the consolidation is there or not? Are you getting the point? So point number one, the auditor is going to obtain the list of all the components required for the purpose of consolidation. He will, whether it is required for the purpose of consolidation or not, it is his responsibility to obtain the list of all the components. After that, he will check whether which components have been included in the preparation of consolidated financial statements and which components have not been considered while preparing the financial statements. And if they have not been considered while preparing the consolidated financial statement, does the parent company is having any genuine reason behind that or not? That is what the auditor says. This is what do you mean by the topic called completeness of comp. Are you getting the point? So let us read what the topic is saying. So in the completeness of auditor shall obtain the list of all the components from whom? Parent company. Plus he shall see while doing and preparing the CFS whether the parent company has included components or not included some components. If components have been included, that is well and good. But if some components have not been included, why it is not been included? Is there any reason behind non-inclusion or not? Are you getting the point? Next important. Now, sometimes what will happen, management will not be, that much cooperative sometimes. Management will not be telling you each and everything you need to know for the purpose of your audit. In that case, what the auditor will do? In such cases, what the auditor shall do? Ab sunna ise dhyan se. In that case is how I will come to know whether the components have been included or not. There are so many methods. There are so many methods by which you can understand the completeness of the components has taken place while doing the consolidation of financial statements or while preparation of consolidated financial statements or not, whether all the components have been included or not. Should I tell you now how? Now read. To ensure that completeness of components have taken place, auditors shall perform the following procedure. Now, what are the procedures I have to follow? Now, listen to me carefully one by one. Automatically understand what. Was I the auditor of the same parent for the last so I was an auditor of same parent for the last so many years. What I will do, I will review my own audit documentation working paper. I will review my own audit working of the previous years to understand which components were included in the previous years and which components were not included in the previous years, whether this year also the same is happening or not. Did you get the method number one? So I will review my own audit working papers. I will review my own audit working papers of which year? Own audit working papers of previous year's audit, so that I can come to know whether some components which have not been included in this year were also not included in those years or not, or those which were included in this year were also included in those. Here everyone, so what is the first method? Auditor should review his audit working papers of which years? Yes. I hope everyone is clear. Yes, everyone is clear. The second thing what I have to do, is make the management inquiries. Directly go to the management and ask them ki how many are included and how many are excluded. If some components have been excluded, give us the reason why it has been. That is a very normal method that need not be it does not require your intelligence at all or professional skepticism. Just go to the management, talk to the management and ask them how many included, how many not included. If not included, give us the reasons for that. Clear everyone? Okay. The third method is try to understand the management's method of verifying its component. Try to understand the management's method of identifying its component. How the management identifies one company as its component or not as its components, you have to identify management's method. If you understand that the management's method of doing the identification of components is a genuine method, then it's okay. But if you have any kind of doubt, there is some. So what are the 3 points we understood to understand the completeness of the components? Point number one, I will review my own audit working papers of which year, sir? Previous years. So point number two, I will directly go to the management and ask them how many are included and how many are not included. And I will identify the management's method of identification of their components. How the management identifies components, that also I am going to verify. Clear everyone? Yes? Okay. Next point. Now I will review the investment patterns of parents and components. I will review the investment patterns, the shareholding patterns of the parents and what do you say, of the parent and components. Suppose it was only 15% investment. It means it is neither associate nor a subsidiary. But suppose recently from 15% has been increased to what? 25%. It means now it came under the bracket of what? Subsidiary or associate? Associate. Now recently it has been increased from 25% to 65%. Now it means it is a subsidiary. Are you understanding the point? So check the flow of shareholding pattern. Check the flow of investment pattern going on or taking place between the parent company and the component company. What are the 4 points? We will do it in a cumulative manner because it's a very important question, a must question, I would rather say. It is a very must question. Clear, everyone? So number one, I will review my own audit working paper. I will directly go to the management and ask them how many are included and how many are excluded. If excluded, what is the reason? I will also identify the management's method of identification of what? I will also identify the management's method of identification of their components, and I will check the changes in the shareholding pattern and the investment of the components and parents. Then I will also would like to obtain copies of their joint agreement papers or joint venture agreement papers. From the agreement papers only, I'll come to know that whether it is a joint venture, is it an associate. If the two entities are joining the hands together to have a contractual arrangement of having a joint control over a particular thing, it means it's a joint venture. So from the agreement papers only, I'll come to know that is it a joint venture or a joint arrangement entered by them or not. Then I will also now see, look at my professional skepticism now. I will not stop there. I will also ask the management, parent management, to give me the copies of some major other arrangements and other assignments also which you have entered with the other company. There may be a chance that they would like to hide some information. So I will obtain the copy of all the arrangements, all the agreements. By reading all the arrangements and all the agreements, I will automatically come to know that is it a joint venture agreement or just like a general purpose agreement. Clear, everyone? So it means I will review the joint venture and joint agreement first, and I will also review the other arrangements that are not included. And why they are not included, if I'll get justified by understanding the other arrangement papers, then I will allow them to not include it. Otherwise, I have every right to question the parent company, okay, why you did not include this component. Clear? Next, I will review the section 186, section 190 statutory. So what is section 186 and 190 registers? Section 186 is known as intercorporate loans, investments, intercorporate loans and investments, and section number 190 is for the like loans given in the interested parties, given to the interested party. So I will automatically come to know that whether intercorporate loans have taken place or not, or whether intercorporate investments have taken place or not between the two companies, and I'll also come to know that to whom the loan has been granted, in which way, where the investment has been done party. So from their 186 register and from their 190 register also, I'll come to know that whether that particular company is a subsidiary or a joint venture. This homework is basically who is doing? Auditor is doing. Check the completeness of the component. Now next thing, I will identify the changes in the shareholding pattern. What do you mean by identify the changes in the shareholding pattern? Obtain the copy of the statement of changes in equity. Obtain the copy of statement of changes in equity. Changes in equity means what? Changes in the shareholding pattern or not? So these are the various methods which I have in my pocket to understand whether the components properly. So let us revise the whole topic again so that we can move to the next topic. So what is the topic name? Completeness of components. What is the topic name? Completeness of components. Sir, what do you mean by completeness of components? Auditor shall obtain. Auditor shall obtain the list of. Auditor shall obtain what? Auditor shall obtain the list of all the components from the parent company. Then he should see that in the preparation of consolidated financial statement, which components are added, which components are not added. But if some components are not added, he has every right to understand the reason why it has not. Suppose the management is keeping the silence. If the management is keeping the silence, whether the auditor has to obtain his own evidence or not. So what are the methods by which method number? He will review audit working paper the previous year. Method number will directly go to the management and ask them what is included and what is not included. If not included, why? He will also check the management's method of identification of. and he will also verify the investment registers or to understand the shareholding pattern changes or investment pattern changes, parent and I will also review the 189 and 186 and 190 statutory register. Come to know about the intercorporate loan, the related party loan. I will also do what? I will also verify the arrangements they have entered of joint ventures and other arrangements. Understand why they have not. And I will also identify what? I will also identify and try to understand the change in the shareholding pattern. So did you understand all the points or not? This. All the points completely and adequately revised in this particular topic. I hope everyone is satisfied with that. Yes, sir. We are satisfied. Now, do you remember in the yesterday's lecture what we have understood? In the yesterday's lecture, what we understood that if there is an exemption for doing the consolidation given to some subsidiary. There is an exemption given the intermediary holding company or an intermediary wholly owned subsidiary or a partially wholly owned subsidiary as per Companies Act, section number 129. As per Companies Act, section number 120. But there itself, if you remember, I already told you that we have to do the two more such topics in the further topics. Now listen to this. Exclusions allowed for consolidation. It means which components are not to be included. Which components are not to be included for the purpose of consolidation, that we are going to understand. Now you will understand which components are not required to be included for the purpose of preparation of consolidated financial statements. All give a red signal or a green signal. Let us proceed. Right now, what is this topic? As per those companies who are following the accounting standards, as per those companies who are following the accounting standard, there are two cases. There are how many cases? There are two cases under which the particular component will not be included for the purpose of consolidation. Now, if you say yes, then I will tell you. Yes, sir. Purpose number one, reason number one. If there is a temporary relationship between the parent and component company, if there is a temporary relationship of parent and component between the two companies. Sir, what do you mean by temporary relationship? I just invested in that company 70%. Due to after some period of time, the price of the share of that particular subsidiary went up and I sold those shares within a year. Now, when I sold the shares within a year, now was it a permanent relationship? Was it a holding subsidiary kind of relationship? Was I actually going to give any economic benefits to the subsidiary? Or was it a temporary relationship? Temporary relation. So if the holding became holding and subsidiary became subsidiary due to some period of time, due to the temporary period of time, then in that case, that particular component is not required to be included. That particular component is not required to be included for the purpose of consolidation. What is the point number one? Only those components shall be excluded when the relationship of component with the parent is what in nature? Temporary in nature. What in nature, sir? Temporary in. There, everyone? Case number. And this is for, remember, this is for which companies? This is for those companies which are following accounting standards. This is for those companies which are following accounting standard. Those companies which are following IND-AS, no such exemption is there. IND-AS do not allow any kind of exemption. Are you getting the point or not? Now, what is the second area for those companies which are following the accounting standards? When there is a long-term severe restriction on the components. When there is a long-term severe means very high restrictions, very severe restrictions, very tight restrictions on components which impairs their right. Which what? Impairs their right to transfer the funds to the parents to transfer the funds to the parents. So when there is a, again repeat, when there is a severe long term, when there is a long term severe restrictions on the components, when there is a long term severe restrictions on the components which impair means take away their right to transfer the funds back to whom? To the parents. In such conditions, those components are also not required to be. So there are two cases where the components are not required to be included for the purpose of consolidation. The case number one is if the relationship between the holding and subsidiary is temporary in nature. Case number two, if there is a severe long-term restrictions on the component which impair its right to transfer the funds to its parent. If those companies which are following accounting standards in these two circumstances, the consolidation of these particular components is not required to be done. They are right for those companies which are following accounting. Now, what about those companies following the IND-AS? No such exemptions or exclusions. Simply, you have to write this answer. The no exemption to any kind of component is allowed if you are following IND-AS. Each and every component, either it is minor, major, material, immaterial, everything has to be included for the purpose of consolidation. I hope now you all understood. Yes, we all understood, right, everyone? So, when you are an auditor, you should check the reasons for exclusions as per applicable ARF, AFRF, and exemption from consolidation under the Companies Act we have already discussed earlier. So remember one thing, so what we have understood just now, under what circumstances the components will be excluded for the purpose of consolidation. Sir, if the companies are following accounting standards, there are two situations. When the relationship between the holding and subsidiary is what in nature? Temporary in nature. And when the relationship, when there is a long term severe restrictions on the subsidiary company due to which its rights have been paid to transfer the funds to the parent company. Are you getting the point or not? And if it is a company following the IND-AS, then there are no such exclusions, no such exemptions. Clear, everyone? I hope everything is clear. Yes, sir. Everything is clear. Then comes the time when the company has to do the consolidation. Remember one thing, consolidation should be done on line to line basis. Consolidation should be done on line to line basis. Line to line, all the assets must be added. Line to line, all the liabilities must be added. Line to line, all the incomes must be added. Line to line, all the what do you say, expenditures must be added. Okay, consolidation means merging of so many components with the parents or not. So everything should be done on line to line basis. Assets of the subsidiary 1, subsidiary 2, subsidiary 3, subsidiary 4 added to the parent. Liabilities of the subsidiary 1, subsidiary 2, subsidiary 3, subsidiary 4 added, except consolidation adjustments, except intra balance adjustments, except intra क्या बोलते हैं indebtedness, those which are common, which are coming on the debit side also, which are coming on the credit side also. Holding company has given a loan to the now where the holding company will show the asset side, where the subsidiary will show this under the liability side. When we'll do the consolidation, whether the same thing is coming on asset side and whether the same thing is coming on liability side or not, yes, it will be cut off. That are known as intra balance or intra indebtedness. Other than that, everything should fall in line to line. And auditors also understand one thing, during the financial year, any status has been changed or not. Some joint ventures became some associate joint ventures. Some associates turned into subsidiaries. Some subsidiaries turned into. Are you getting the point? Some joint ventures turns into subsidiary and some subsidiaries turn into joint venture. Here, everyone, if there is any change in the status, that auditor, that is also the responsibility of the auditor to identify whether change in status has taken place or not. And he has to ensure that the total consolidation has been done on which basis? Line to line basis. I hope up to this everything is super clear. Everyone is crystal clear. Yes, sir, we are crystal clear. Right now, listen to this very carefully. If the companies which are following the accounting standards are doing the consolidation, if the parent company is following the accounting standards and the components are also following the accounting standards, they are doing the consolidation, they have to ensure that everything is done on line to line basis. I already told you, line to line, assets, liabilities, income, expenditure, cash flows, everything will be added. Are you getting the point or not? And now when we are adding it, what will happen? You have to calculate the goodwill and capital reserve. Now, say for example, when I acquired a subsidiary and paid the more money than its net asset value. I acquired a subsidiary worth rupees 500 crores, but I paid 650 crores to acquire it. Did I pay extra 150? Yes, that is called goodwill. And when I acquired a subsidiary worth 500 crores at 350 crores, did I pay 150 crores less or no? That is called what? Capital reserve. And while doing the consolidation, we also have to ensure that we are calculating the minority interest. Sir, why I'm using the word called minority interest? We are talking about those companies following what? Accounting. We're talking about those companies that are following what? Accounting standards. When the company is following accounting standards, we do not call it as a non-controlling interest. We call it as a minority interest. Whereas on the other hand, when the companies are following what? IND-AS, instead of minority interest, they're called what? Non-controlling. Clear, everybody? So line to line consolidation adjustments are required to be done for the asset, liability, income, expenditure, and cash flow. And we have to calculate the goodwill and capital reserve. We have to ensure that the minority interest is calculated. And those companies which are following the accounting standards, they have to ensure that they are complying with AS 21, AS 23, AS 20. So that we already know. But those companies which are following IND-AS, those companies which are following IND-AS while preparing the consolidated financial statement, they have to of these four IND. IND-AS 110, IND-AS 103, IND-AS 111, and IND-AS 28. What is IND-AS 110? It talks about the consolidation of financials. What is IND-AS 103? It talks about the calculation of goodwill, calculation of capital reserve, or calculation of non-controlling interest, not minority interest. And then they have to follow IND-AS 1111, which talks about the joint arrangements, and they have to talk about the IND-AS 28, which talks about the joint ventures and associates. 111 talks about the joint arrangements, and 28 talks about joint ventures and associates. Same thing we are doing here, same thing is here only, but instead of 21, 23, and 27, instead of 21, 23, and 27, what are the four IND-AS we have to consider? IND-AS 110, IND-AS 111, IND-AS 103, and IND-AS 20. Sir, what is 20? Joint ventures and associates. So what is 111? Joint arrangements. What is 103? It talks about calculation of goodwill, minority interest, sorry, non-controlling interest, or calculation of capital goodwill or capital reserve. And what is IND-AS 110? Of financial. Clear, everyone? Up to this point, if you have any doubt, you already have my number, and you have to ensure that you are asking me the doubt particular number which I have shared with you all. And anyways, numbers are coming below also. So the second number which you can see, that 863499916, that belongs to me only. Find any kind of difficulty, always available, 24/7, always available. But make sure that your calls will be taken after 9 o'clock in the night, and remaining WhatsApp and all. I hope everyone is clear about the audit of consolidation so far. Now the major topics are come. What do you mean by major topics? Why I am calling it as a major topics? That you will understand in. Okay, guys. Okay, so let us understand what do you mean by consolidation adjustment. So before going deeper, let me give you an idea. What do you mean by consolidation adjustments? When we talk about consolidation adjustments, when we talk about consolidation adjustment, there are two types. One are known as permanent consolidation adjustments, and one are known as temporary consolidation. Sir, what do you mean by permanent consolidation adjustments? What do you mean by temporary consolidation? Listen to this very carefully. Listen. Permanent consolidation adjustments are those adjustments which are only required to be done only once. They are only required to be done only once. Means that at the time of acquisition. Only once, in the beginning only. That is why it is known as permanent. They are not required to be done on yearly basis. Let's take an example. When we acquired a subsidiary, when a holding company acquired a subsidiary, there will be either goodwill or there will be a capital reserve. Do we have to calculate every year? No, we don't have to calculate every year. We only have to calculate only once. That's why it is a permanent. Now, when the holding company acquired 60% of the voting rights in the subsidiary company, what is remaining 40%? Remaining 40 as minority interest. Remaining 40% is known as minority interest. It is also known as non-controlling interest if the company is holding IND-AS. Clear, everyone? So, do we have to calculate the share of profit, share of assets, or rather you can say that the equity proportion attributable to the minority interest and non-controlling not that also is required to be done only once permanently. So permanent consolidation adjustments are basically two. One is the calculation of goodwill or capital reserve, and second one is calculation of portion attributable to or equity attributable to minority. Clear, everyone? So equity attributable to the minority. Clear, everyone? So that is why they are known as permanent consolidation. Now, there are some consolidation adjustments which we have to do every year. There are some consolidation adjustments we have to do every year. Those consolidation adjustments are called current consolidation. They are called what? Current consolidation. Sir, what do you mean by current consolidation? Example, um, no, goodwill and capital reserve point will not come. That is a permanent one. Now see, current consolidation adjustment means intra profits or losses. Suppose holding company sold any asset to the subsidiary or subsidiary hold any asset to the holding company. So they made a intra group profit. So that is going to be adjusted. That can happen every year. Intra balance adjustment, intra indebtedness, intra management fees. Every year, suppose if the every year their gap is different or if the accounting policies are different, every year we have to do the harmonization of accounting policies also. If their gap is different, every year we have to convert the components gap as per the requirements of the parent gap also. So these are those kind of adjustments you have to do on every year basis. That is why they are known as current consolidation. So when we talk about the consolidation adjustments, what are the 2 points come to mind? Sir, point number one, point number two, one permanent consolidation adjustments, and one is known as current consolidation. I hope everyone is okay. Now listen very carefully. Listen to this very carefully. Sir, why this topic is very important? Understanding the adjustment is not important. Understanding what the auditor has to carry out his procedures in this adjustment is very important. Everyone will understand. It's a very simple thing. Even a nursery person can understand what do you mean by permanent consolidation adjustment and what do you mean by current consolidation adjustment. But what the auditor needs to do in those adjustments, that is very much it's a task to understand what the auditor needs to do out when he is doing the permanent adjustments or current period adjustments. So that is the main task we have to understand. So we are starting with the topic called what? Consolidation adjustments. In the consolidation adjustments, here we are with the first adjustments which are known as what? Permanent. So let us understand what do you mean by permanent. Such consolidation adjustments which are made only on first occasion. That is what I told you. It is made only on first occasion, only one time at the time of acquisition. Are you getting the point? But let me ask you very simple. Suppose the changes have taken place over a period of time. If any subsequent changes have taken over a period of time, then in that case, again, permanent consolidation. Let me give you an example. Up to the financial year 1920, I was having 5 subsidiaries. So did I do the consolidation adjustment permanent in nature for the first time in 1920 or? Yes. But in the 2021, I acquired 2 more subsidiaries. Now tell me, 2 more I did in the group, 5 were there. Now 5 plus 2 became what? 7. So do I have to do the permanent consolidation adjustment for the newly acquired subsidiaries or not? Yes. So such consolidation adjustments which are made only on first occasion but on subsequent occasions if there is any change in shareholding. On the subsequent occasions also if there is any change in shareholding. Now let me give you one very simple. One more example. Now listen to one more example. Now there was a subsidiary in which the company was having 70% voting. Parent was having how many voting rights? The 70%. The 70% voting rights means 30% is what? 30% is minority interest. Now suppose company reduced it to now 45%. Now tell me, is it still a is it still a subsidiary now? No more, it's a came into the bracket of what? So these kind of subsequent changes will come in the future due to the change in what? Shareholding, then also the so permanent consolidation adjustments are carried out only once at the time of first occasion and sometimes at the subsequent occasions if there is a change in the shareholding pattern. Clear everyone? So this brings an end. The meaning of which adjustments? Permanent consolidation. Clear? Yes. So what are those two permanent consolidation adjustments? I already told you we have to calculate or determine the goodwill or capital reserve, because when we acquire any subsidiary or associate part, either we get a goodwill or we get a capital reserve. If we paid more than what we deserve, then we get a goodwill. If we paid less than what we deserve, then we get a. I have everyone clear? Yes. So determination of equity attributable to whom? Minority. That also I told you the remaining 20% or 30% which are left in the subsidiary are known as. We have to calculate the portion of the equity and the reserves which are attributed to those minorities. So these are known as the two permanent. Clear everyone? Crystal clear everyone? Yes, sir. Now what is the next thing? This is the main procedure. What you have to understand. Permanent consolidation adjustments are quite simple, but when it comes to the current year consolidation adjustment, there we little have to think about more. Now, under the permanent consolidation adjustment, what is the first thing auditor has to check? Auditor has to check that the calculation of goodwill and the calculation of capital reserve and the calculation of minority interest we have done is appropriately. That's it. What is the first responsibility? What is the first procedure auditor has to apply when the company has done the permanent consolidation adjustment? Point number one, whether the calculations relating to goodwill, calculations relating to capital reserve, or calculations relating to minority interest or non-controlling interest have been calculated appropriately by the parent's management or not. That is what our procedure number one. Shall check that such two calculations are. What is the second thing? His main focus should be on the pre-acquisition reserves of the company. What do you mean by pre-acquisition reserves of the company? Before acquiring a component, what was the pre-acquired reserves in the main focus of the auditor should be there on the pre-acquisition reserves of the before acquisitions, what reserves were belonging, how much reserves were belonging to the components. So remember, main focus should be on the pre-acquisition reserves of the. Then he has to see that various different dates on which the investments in components. You always have to keep on looking at on which dates the investment was made, in how much manner and in which way. Say for example, the first investment was made on 15 August 2020, that was 25%. Then 18 August another 20%. Now it is 45%. Then 7 October another 20%. Now it is 65%. So it means from associate it has turned into what? Subsidiary. So dates of investments in the components is also. What are the three things we have understood in the audit procedure? Focus number one, you should try to understand whether the calculations done on the calculation of capital reserve, general reserve, goodwill, capital reserve, or non-controlling minority interest has been calculated appropriately. Point number two, his main focus should be on the pre-acquisition reserves of the component. Point number three, he should also focus on investments. Most importantly, he should also ensure that the pre-acquisition reserves was divided appropriately between holding interest and minority. Now, suppose if the pre-acquisition reserves were 100 crores, before acquiring a subsidiary, reserves were 100 crores. Subsidiary was acquired by 70%. It means 70% of the reserves now belongs to holding company. 70% of the reserves now belong to a holding company, and remaining 30% of the reserves now belong to whom? 30% of the reserves now belong to whom? Minority. So he has also to ensure that key pre-acquisition reserves are properly divided between holding interest and minority. What is the next thing? Monitor the changes due to the subsequent events. Monitor the changes due to the subsequent. But sir, what do you mean by subsequent events? Let's say, for example, 65% was there in the subsidiary. Later on, you disposed 20% of your investment out of 65%. So it means that particular subsidiary is no more your subsidiary. It has exited your group and now it came into the group of associates. So 65% got disposed by 20% by the amount of 20%. So 65 got reduced by 20 means what? 45%. 45% does not make you a subsidiary. It means from your subsidiary you have been turned into a. So changes in the, and now suppose 45% got increased to 70%. It means from associate you turn. Do you remember I just now earlier told you the auditor has to verify all these things, that whether any change in status is coming or not. That is what we are talking. Monitor the changes due to the subsequent acquisitions or disposal. I hope you are finding this class note very, 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 very clear, everyone. Next one. Parent may also choose. Parent may also choose to show one single figure. Parents may also choose to show one single figure in consolidation financial statement instead of goodwill from one component and capital reserve. Holding company acquired two subsidiary 1, subsidiary 2. When acquired the subsidiary 1, it paid a goodwill of 6, and when acquired the subsidiary 2, it got the capital reserve of 15 crore. Now tell me, in one subsidiary acquisition, you got 60 crores of goodwill. In the second subsidiary acquisition, you got the 15 crores of capital reserve. Now, what is the net figure? Net figure is 45 crores. So it is 60 crores was goodwill and 15 crores was capital reserve. It means if the if the parent company wants, it can show the net figure of what? 45 crores. So 60 minus 15 comes to what? 45 crores. What? Net figure of goodwill. Instead of showing 60 in one place and 15 on the liability side and 60 on the asset side, do the net off. Goodwill minus capital. How much total came? 45. So it can show the net figure. That is what do you mean by this point. Now read this point. If the parent may choose to show the one single figure in the consolidated financial statements instead of goodwill from one component. Net off figure. So in total six audit procedures you have to apply when you are checking the permanent consolidation adjustment. Clear? Point number one. You have to check the calculations of the goodwill, capital reserve, and non-controlling interest or minority interest. Whether the calculation parent management. Point number two. Your main focus should be pre. Third point. Make sure that the pre-acquisition reserves after acquisition has been appropriately divided between holding interest and non-controlling. Make sure that point number four. Make sure that your make sure that you are keeping a good concentration or you're keeping a focus on the various. Make sure that you're also focusing on the subsequent events or subsequent changes in the status of the various components due to the acquisition and disposal later. Make sure that you also have to ensure that the parent may sometimes choose to give a set of figure of the goodwill and capital. That is what all required to be seen by whom? It is all required to be seen by the auditor while checking out which adjustments. Permanent consolidation. I hope we are done with this topic. Yes, sir, we are done with this topic. So can we move to the current consolidation adjustment? Yes, sir, we can move to current. Sir, what do you mean by current consolidation adjustment? Just now we have current consolidation adjustments are those adjustments which are required to be carried out on yearly and every year basis. It is unlike the permanent consolidation. Were required only at first occasion. But these are those adjustments which are required to be carried out every year for consideration. Sir, how will come to know? Very simple. Very simple. Goodwill, are you going to calculate every year? No. Are you going to calculate minority interest every year until unless the changes are not taking place? No. So it means those two are permanent. Remaining all are what? Current consolidation. Here everyone. So what do you mean by current consolidation adjustment? Those adjustments which are carried out every year for what? Right? For the consolidation. Now, let us understand this. It's a very simple. Now, why do we need to carry out the current consolidation? Why do we need to carry out the current consolidation? Need to carry out the current consolidation purpose number one, to eliminate the intra-group, giving loan to one subsidiary and taken loan from another subsidiary. Is it going to show a loan and taken a loan in the both asset side and liability side or not? Yes. So instead of that, let's do the, that is called intra, to eliminate the intra-group. Clear everyone? This is what do you mean by the first reason why do we do the current consolidation adjustment. What is the second reason? Intra-group balances. Eliminate intra-group balances. One subsidiary is my debtor. One subsidiary is my debtor. It means in my books, that subsidiary is shown as a debtor. That in the subsidiaries books, I am shown as what? Creditor. So debtor and creditor eliminated. So intra-group balances should be eliminated and intra-group adjustments, group transactions be eliminated. Now, what are those intra-group transactions? Let us understand one by one. Intra-group interest paid, if any, this will be eliminated. Intra-group interest received, if any, will be adjusted. Obviously, if I have paid the interest, the other subsidiary has received the interest. So in my books, it will be shown as an expenditure. In the subsidiary book, it will be shown as a income. But when we will consolidate, whether it is going to come for double time or not, let's eliminate that. Let's set off. Complete, eliminate it. Consolidation responsibility, we have to reduce it or not. Already we are doing line to line consolidation. If we will not eliminate the intra group transactions, then there will be a problem or not. So what are the intra group transactions on current consolidation adjustment? We have to remove intra group interest paid or received, management fees paid or received, or intra group interest. That subsidiary has taken a loan from me. In my books it is an asset, but in the subsidiary book it is adjusted, set off. Intra-group profits on assets transferred to the component or from the components. If you have taken any what do you say, asset from the subsidiary, if the parent has taken any asset from the subsidiary or any other component, then the parent has that the subsidiary, that component has incurred a profit. Am I correct? But if I've transferred any asset to the subsidiary, I have earned a profit. So any kind of intra-group profits on the assets transferred to component or taken from component, that is also called intra balance or intra transaction. That is also required to be adjusted. Correct? Then we have to do the harmonization of accounting policy of parent and component. If the parent's accounting policy is different and components accounting policy is different, do we have to do harmonization of both or not? Yes, we have to do. Let's take an example. Parent is following straight line method of depreciation, component is following WDV method of depreciation. Parent is having one accounting policy and the subsidiary is having another accounting policy. So do we have to take care of the adjustment? Correct everyone? By current adjustment. Then conversion of gap if different. Now, if the component is having a different gap and the parent is having a different gap, then the components gap has to be changed as per the parents gap. That is called conversion of gap. Then we have to see the subsequent events also. We have to see the subsequent events also. So what do you mean by subsequent events? If the holding and are having the same financial, we have to see. You all know subsequent events, SA 560. Subsequent events, adjusting, non-adjusting, which taken place before signing the audit report or after signing the audit report. If they're both having the same financial year, then to definitely, then to obviously we have to talk about the subsequent events. But if the both are following, the different financial year, then also do we have to check any balances or not? Do we have to check any balances or not? Yes, we have to check some balances. That is also we have to check. Clear everyone? So if they are both having the same financial year, then the subsequent are going to be checked. But suppose if the holding company's financial year is ending on 31st March and subsidiary's financial year is ending on, say for example, 30th September, do they have the same financial year or different financial year? Different. So between this to this time period, so many transactions might have taken place during the year. That is also the subsequent from the holding point of view. So those are subsequent events which have taken place due to the change in financial year between the holding and component, or due to the same financial year between the holding and that also we have to take taken care of. That is called current year, or that is called then another deferred, that is your technical term which we use in taxation, deferred tax payments arising on temporary differences. Whether every year it will arise or not, yes, it will arise every year. So what do we call them? Deferred tax payments. So deferred tax payment adjustments which are arising on every year. Clear everyone? So deferred tax payment arising on the temporary differences is also one of the current consolidation adjustment. And the last one, movement in equity. So what do you mean by movement? Say for example, to last year the minority, this year company has increased its holding more by 10%. Therefore, minority interest is reduced to 20%. If the holding interest is increased by 10%, so minority interest is reduced by 10% or not? So is there any movement? Yes, movement of what? 10% reduction. That is also every year we have. So that's why all it is known as what? Current consolidation, CCA. So what is a current consolidation adjustment? Intragroup interest paid received management debtness. Intragroup profits on assets transferred to the component from the component. Harmonization of accounting policies between the parent and company. Conversion of the gap if the gap is different in the parent and component company. Subsequent events when the holding and subsidiary, or when the holding and subsidiary are having the same financial year or different financial year. Deferred tax payment adjustments arising on temporary differences and movement in attribute trust and non are all known as current consolidation adjustment, right? Did you understand the total topic or not? Yes, sir, we understood. So this what brings an end to our meaning of what? Meaning of current consolidation. Clear everyone? Current consolidation. Now, what is the next thing? Like in the permanent consolidation adjustments, we have talked about what? Audit procedures. So here also we have to talk about what? Audit procedures. To understand the current consolidation adjustment done by the parent, the auditor first has to read out their memorandum records. He has to read out their memorandum records. Other than reading the memorandum records, he has to see that whether intra-group balances and adjustments are eliminated or not. Let me give a very simple idea how to learn. What we learned in the current year adjustments, write the word to check that. If you use the word to check that, to check that, to check that, that will become your audit procedures in the current consolidation adjustment. So what the auditor has to check that? He has to check that the intra-group balances and adjustments are eliminated or not. He has to check that uniformity in the accounting policies have been maintained, because there might be a case that holding and subsidiary are having the two different types of accounting policies. So do we have to maintain the uniformity or not? So to check that uniformity in to check that harmonization of accounting policy by the parent company. If the components gap is different, and what do you say, if the components accounting policy is different and parents policy is different, do we need to do the harmonization? Do we need to maintain the uniformity? And you also have to check that accounting policies which were impracticable to get harmonized have been cleared or not. Now, it is not possible that every accounting policy change between the holding and subsidiary can be uniformed. Keep one thing in mind. Some accounting policies cannot be harmonized. Some accounting policies can be harmonized. Some which can be harmonized, that also auditor has to check, and some which are impracticable to be harmonized, that also auditor has to. So all these 3 points are relating to accounting policy. So we have to check that uniformity is maintained or not. We have to check that wherever the harmonization was required, it was conducted or not. We also have to check that those accounting policies which are impracticable to be harmonized. Then we have to check that calculation of minority interest on non-control also correctly calculated, and we have to check that it deferred tax payment adjustments, the temporary differences also been calculated. What I told you, the idea is very simple. Now listen to this. All these adjustments which we have learned here, if we'll use a word called to check that, it will be your audio. As simple as that. That is a technique you can. In the examination, if you fail to write or learn, Array, what sir told at the time of discussing, what sir was discussing, you just simply apply this for all the adjustments. If you learn, read or write the word to check that, to verify that, right or not, to verify the inter adjustment, to verify the harmonization, to verify the subsequent properly taken care of, to verify that conversion of the gap has taken place, or to verify that deferred tax, anything you can. So you just have to remember the word to verify. If you remember the consolidated adjustments, current account consolidated, right? Next point. Ensure that the subsidiaries P&L are included in the CFS from the day it becomes till it ceases to become. Now remember one thing. You are required to add the profit and loss statement of subsidiaries from the day it became your subsidiary. And you have to stop including it in the CFS from the day it ceases to become your subsidiary. As simple as the day it became your subsidiary, from that day you have to start adding them in the consolidated financial statement, and the day it is no more your subsidiary, you have to stop including them in the financial statement. That is what they are saying. So ensure that subsidiaries P&L are included in CFS from the day it became till the day it ceased. Clear everyone? So this is what do you mean by audit procedures which are required in the current. Story didn't end here. Story didn't end here. We have other procedures. These were the main procedures, but we have the other procedures. Now, auditor has management procedures to reduce material. Auditor knows that what procedure he has to follow, what procedure he need not follow. But auditor also has to understand the management procedures of doing the consolidation adjustment. If his procedures are little bit matching with the management's process of doing the consolidation adjustments, then in that case, okay, less room is there. But if he is thinking this should be done in this way and the management is doing in another way, then the risk of material, because the thinking process is, so it is very much necessary for auditor to have a knowledge of management process also while checking the current consolidation. Did you understand the point? Gain the understanding of the management procedures so that he can reduce the to its lowest level and can apply. Clear everyone? Yes. Goodwill shall be valued at the, you all know, goodwill shall be valued at the date of acquisition and should be seen that it was tested for impairment at every balance sheet. You all know that purchased goodwill or acquired goodwill which is recognized in the balance sheet is required to be amortized over. Impairment loss will be recognized on every balance sheet date. So auditor has to show that goodwill was calculated on the acquisition date while acquiring the subsidiaries, and he also has to ensure that, sir, remember one thing. In the audit of consolidated financial statements, it looks like a very small chapter, but it is an ocean actually. So many questions can be. It's a very in-depth chapter, and that's the reason we are doing each and every word so that examiner, so that you will not leave any stone unturned which may come in your examination. No, not leaving any stone unturned. As simple as, हम तो सब कुछ करके जाएंगे, each and everything करके. समझ में आया सर? So goodwill shall be valued at the date of acquisition and it should be tested for its impairment loss at every balance sheet date. The second thing auditor has, the other procedure. What is the first thing? You should gain the management procedure reduces level of risk. Next one, financial statement of components shall be drawn up to the same financial date of parent. That I already told you. If the gap of the parent is different, the gap of the component is different, then components financials as per what? Parents financial statement. If the component's financial year date is different and the parent's financial year date is different, components will change as per the parents. Parents will not change. So financial statements of components same financial dates of the parent. If any different reporting dates, effect of subsequent between those dates shall be adjusted. That we have already understood. Did I tell you here or not? Subsequent events, if the holding and subsidiary is having the same financial year, and those subsequent events, the holding and subsidiary are having different financial years. We are talking about which case? If they are having financial. Now, say for example, holding is completing its financial year first March. Subsidiary is completing its financial year on 30th June. 3 months of gap is there or not? During this 3 months gap, so many events might have taken place. Now, parent has to, component has to adjust as per what? Parent. These 3 months adjustments will be known as now subsequent adjustment. Did you understand the point? Now, SF 560 will be applicable? Yes, SF 560 will be. Now, listen very carefully, which I am going to tell you now. If the companies are following accounting standards, then maximum 6 months gap of adjustments will be taken care. If the company is following IND AS allows maximum 3 months gap of difference. AS allows the 6 months gap of difference between the balance sheet date of holding and balance sheet date of component. So this is, you can imagine that if this is 6 months, that is as per what? Accounting standards. It means as per AS, it is only 3 months difference. Are you getting the point? So if you want to evaluate the differences, if you want to evaluate the differences due to the change in financial year between the parent and holding, as per AS maximum allowed and as per IND AS 3 months difference. I hope I made it super clear to all of you. Yes, sir, I made it clear. Informations to be disclosed in consolidated financial. What are the informations to be disclosed in consolidated? And auditors shall check that. Now, very important topic. Are we adding components to the parent or not? Tell me, are we adding the components to the parent or not? Yes, sir, we are adding the components to the parent. Now, listen to this very, very carefully. Now, whether components are also a subsidiary is also a separate entity, associate is also a separate entity, joint venture is also separate. We have to ensure that we have to show their net asset, their contributed net asset, the consolidated assets rate. How much they are contributing to the consolidated figures, that percentage we have to show the consolidated. Auditor shall check that following information in consolidated financial. So what is the information? Amount of net assets plus net assets to the consolidated asset percent. Now say for example, subsidiary 1 is having 700 crores of assets. The total group assets are 7,000 crores of assets. Tell me how much portion the subsidiary 1 is contributing to the consolidated? It is 10%. So this is 10% will write here and this is 700 crores will write it. What is the amount of net assets of the component that we have to write, and what is the percentage of net assets to the consolidated assets of such component, that also we have to write. So here as per our example we'll write 700 crores, here as per 10%. Same thing we have to apply for the amount of net share in the profits or losses and percentage of net share in the profits and losses, the consolidated profits and losses. Suppose the subsidiary 2 is contributing 400 crores of profit. Total profits are 3,600 crores. Total profits are what? 3,600 crores. Out of 3,600 crores, who is contributing 400? Subsidiary 2. So 400 divided by 3,600 into 100. Whether we'll get the percentage or not? Yes, we'll. So that percentage of net share in the profits also we have to disclose. And we also have to disclose that what is the other comprehensive income of that particular component as compared to its comprehensive income with the consolidated comprehensive. Are you getting the point or not? OCI of that component as compared to the OCI of the consolidated component. So what are the three things to be included? The net assets plus net assets percentage to consolidate. The net profit and loss share plus net profit and loss share as compared to consolidated. Net other comprehensive income plus percentage of net comprehensive consolidated other comprehensive. Clear everyone? So this is what auditor expects should be disclosed in what? Consolidated financial statement. Each and everything what we have done so far is a probable question in your examination. You can't even think of leaving even a single point. There are some chapters where you can do some selective study, some selective study. But in this kind of chapter, like I'll tell you, there is one another chapter called peer review, quality review. They're very chinna chapters, very small chapters. But at the end of the day, read them and each and every word is very. There are some chapters which are very vague, just say audit of bank, audit of general insurance company. There are some topics which are very vague. You may think, but in this chapter, not even a right now. And the good thing is that they have every right to ask anything in this chapter. That's the reason that makes it very important. Now we are going to talk about reporting on consolidated financial statement. Our last topic, going to be our last topic on reporting of first list. Very. Whenever we talk about the reporting, whenever we hear about the word called reporting, the first standard series mine called 700. In the 700 series, SA 700 revised, SA 705 revised, SA 706 revised are highly important. Highly important. SA 700 will teach you how to express an on financial statements, how to report. That is SA 7. SA 705 will teach you how to express the modified opinion. How to express the modified opinion in the independent report. I'm talking about qualified, I'm talking about adverse, and I'm talking about this. So 700 teaches you the format of reporting, how to report on financial statement. 705 tells you how to modify your opinion and what to do, where to qualify, where to adverse, and where to disclaim your opinion. That is what 705 revised teaches. And then SS 706 teaches you others matters paragraph and emphasis matters paragraph and others matters paragraph. It means those paragraphs where the auditor thinks that it is required for the better understanding of the users of finance. They play a highest important role when it comes to the audit. But along with them, there is one more standard which plays a very important role, because there is a use work of another auditor. I'm using the word called another auditor. I'm directing you towards the component auditor. So when the principal auditor uses the work of a component auditor, SS 600 also. But as you all know that SS 600 is optional. Sir, why SS 600 is optional? Because you may choose to use the work of component auditors, you may not choose to work the that is purely dependent upon the CFS. Does he want to do, or does not does he want to use the work of another auditor, or he does not? I hope I'm super clear to everyone. Yes, I'm clear. So there are total 5 cases. There are 5 different types of reportings you may face when you do the audit of consolidated financial statement. The criteria number 1, when the parent auditor, what is the criteria number 1? When the parent auditor and the components auditor is same. So think logically, when the parent auditor and the components auditor is same, there is no place of 600. There is no place of 600. So what the parent auditor has to do, he just has to express an opinion on consolidated financials. That's it. It means he has to make the use of SS 700, SS 705, and SS 706 if required. Nothing else. 600 will not find its place when it comes to case number, because when the parent's auditor the component. But read the case number 2. When the parent's auditor is not the auditor of component, it means here 600 will have a very huge importance and a huge divided responsibility, magnitude of the work performed by the another auditor. Each and everything we'll discuss it. But let us first discuss the 5 headings. Now, what is the case number 1? When the parent auditor is also the component auditor. Case number 2, when the parent auditor is not a. This is very simple cases. Then the complication comes when the component auditor reports under a different accounting framework, which is different from the accounting framework of the parent. It means parent's accounting framework is different and component's accounting framework is different. And I already gave you the answer of that. In such cases, component's accounting framework should be changed as per what? Parent's accounting. And the same is a case number 4 when the component auditor reports under different auditing framework. It is different accounting framework here, and here it is different auditing framework. It means the components auditor is reporting under one auditing framework, and the parents company auditor is reporting under different auditing framework. So again, the components auditing framework must be changed as per the parents auditing framework. Remember one thing, parent will never change as per the components. Always the components are going to change as per the parent. If you 100% understood the concept, please make sure that you are reaching to your friends as saying about this. Are you getting the point? I hope I'm putting my 120% effort. So when the parent auditor is also components auditor, and when the parents auditor is not a component auditor, when the component auditor is using a different component auditor is reporting under the different auditing accounting framework, and the parent auditor is reporting different auditing framework, sorry, accounting framework. And when the component auditor is reporting under different auditing framework, and parent auditor is reporting under the different auditing framework. So 4 cases so very clear, it is very easy to understand. 5th case is very complicated when the component is not audited. So what are my 5 reporting responsibilities? What are the 5 circumstances which I may face when I'm talking about the audit financial? Let's start without fail in detail so that we can wind up this chapter called audit of financial statements. I hope you like the concept, you like the teaching, liked it, please. Thank you. Sure. Let, let us understand case number 1. What is the case number 1? When the parent and component auditors are same. What I told you, when the parent and component auditors are same, there is no chance of. But yes, the component auditor knows the parent auditor also knows the components also. So it's just a very simple language we have to use. The consolidated financial statement shall express in opinion on the truthness and fairness of what the consolidated financial statement auditor. I forgot to write, the consolidated financial statement auditor shall express an opinion shall express an opinion on truthness and fairness of consolidated statements. What are the consolidated financial statements? Consolidated balance sheet, P&L, TFS, notes to account. Nothing you have to do. It is a responsibility of the consolidated financial auditor to statements, because the component auditor is also the auditor of parent auditors, also an of. Clear everyone? Right, CC, you all understood? Clear? Okay. Now, case number 2. When the parent auditor is different from parent auditor, then we have to think of SA 600. Then we have to think 600. We also have to think 706. So why 6? Why 706? First, let us complete 600. Parent auditor shall consider. Parent auditor shall consider. I would rather write it here 706 and 705, both will come. I will tell you why. But let us first understand 600. In case the component auditor and the parent auditor are different, then there can be two possibilities. So what is the two possibility? If the parent auditor thinks that he can complete or do the complete audit on his own, then so in that case he need not take the help of component auditors. It means no existence. But if he thinks that he is not able to do the complete audit of consolidation on its own, he will definitely need to coordinate with the work or use of another auditor. Then six. Now see, in case the parent uses the work, in case the parent uses the work of the component auditor, then the parent auditor shall what he shall disclose the magnitude of the financial by auditor. Very careful. Did I do the audit of those components? Sir, no, we have not done the audit. Whether the component auditor is different or not, yes. So I have a responsibility to disclose in my CFS audit report the magnitude of the financial statements audited by another auditor. It is my responsibility to tell. It is my responsibility to tell to the outsiders, to the to the users of financial statement ki bhaiya this component audit is not done by me. This components audit is done by the different component auditor. The magnitude of the financial audited by the component auditor is required to be disclosed in the CFS audit report. Clear? If I am using the work of another audit. Point number one. Clear, everyone? Disclose the magnitude of the financial statement audited by another audit. Along with that, I also have to disclose the contribution of the components. Do you remember that we always have to ensure that we have to disclose the contribution of components revenue, P&L, assets, cash flow with respect to consolidated figures. Do you remember in the above we have calculated some figures? Net revenue of the component of that component, net revenue of that component, net asset of that component, net cash flow of that component, net as P&L of that component with respect to the consolidated figures, whatever is the percentage that I have to show. So net value percentage also I have to show, and the net value also I have to show, and the percentage to the consolidated figures also have. So if the parent auditor is not the auditor of component, and if the parent auditor thinks of using or uses the work of the component auditor, there are two responsibilities. Responsibility number one, he has to disclose the magnitude of the components financial statements audited by the component auditor. Second thing, he has to disclose that component's revenue share, P&L share, and its asset share, its cash flow share with respect to consolidated figures, amount as well as the percentage he has to show. And why he's doing that? Why he has to do that? So that the users of financial statement understand that divided responsibility parent auditor and component auditor can be understood and disclosed by whom? Users. So that users should not think that ki I am also the auditor of the parent. Users should not have the wrong impression ki I am also the auditor of the parent. No, I am not the sorry. Users should not have a wrong impression that I am also the auditor of component auditor. So I am the auditor of only parent company. I'm not an auditor of component company. Are you getting the point? So to give this idea to the users, I have to do, if we are using the component auditors work, point number one, what we have to discuss magnitude of the audit done by the auditor, and what we have to discuss that particular component's net assets, net profit and loss, net revenue, net cash flow with respect to consolidated figures, as well as why, so that users can understand the divided response principal auditor and component auditor. As simple as that. The hard and fast rule. Now, do you remember that I told you earlier only SA 320 wala point? The SA 3 point I told you what? If the component auditor has kept any kind of reservation, any kind of modification, or any kind of qualification, or any kind of emphasis, or any kind of others matters paragraph in his component auditor's report, then the parent auditor, without any doubt, has to include the same modifications, reservations, and qualification in EFS audit report as it is without changing it or without ignoring it. Did I tell you earlier or not? Yes, same point here. Parent auditor shall ensure to include components, modification, reservations with components as it is. What is the main word? As it is. This is the main word in his report, as he cannot ignore it and cannot challenge the consideration of materiality by the which auditor component. Uh, if the component modified, it's okay. If the parent auditor want, he may not include that immaterial component, but that component where the modification result qualification kept by the component auditor, irrespective of the size of that subsidiary or associate or that particular component, modification as it is EFS audit report also without fail and without changing it and without ignoring it and without challenging it. Clear everyone? Clear everyone? Yes. Okay, great. Hello. Next one. So this is what brings an end to the case number 2 when the parent auditor and the is. I hope everyone understood. When the component auditors report, when the component auditors report under the different accounting framework as compared to the parent's accounting, then I already gave you an idea. What idea I gave you? That the components have to change their accounting framework as per the framework of parent. Did I tell you or not? Yes, but there is some little bit things you need. Very simple. I'll make it 120%. Now suppose components auditor is not familiar with the accounting framework of parent. Component auditor is not familiar with the accounting framework of parent. It means component auditor को पता ही नहीं है कि they do not know कि how the parent's accounting work works. Then what should you do? Then it is the parent's responsibility. It is the parent's responsibility to convert the components financial statements as per the parent's accounting. So when the component auditor does not know or is not familiar with the parents, when the component auditor is not familiar with the parent's accounting, then it is the responsibility of the parent company to ensure to change or convert that component as per parent's accounting. Clear everybody? Yes. So component auditor is unfamiliar with the accounting framework of the parent. Familiar or unfamiliar? Unfamiliar. Then it is the parent's management responsibility to convert the financial statement as per the parent's account. Later on, shall do the adjustments on the same. After conversion only, the consolidation adjustments is possible. Do we have to harmonize them or not? Do we have to convert their gap to our gap or not? After that, you will do the consolidation adjustment, and parent auditor shall apply his audit procedures to check whether the such consolidation adjustments are being carried out properly. And we already, he has to check the calculation, the acquisition, those things, audit procedures on the right side of the consolidation adjustment, permanent, current, right? And number one is again repeating, if the component auditor if the component auditor is unfamiliar with the accounting framework of parent, then the parent's responsibility is to convert the financial statement of component as per the parent's framework, and later on they will do consolidation adjustments and audit procedures. Clear everyone? But the second case, what is the second case? When the components auditor familiar with the parent's accounting framework and group accounting manual. He knows the parent accounting framework also. Who knows component auditor? And he's also having a knowledge of the group accounting manual. Then what will happen? Then component shall prepare its financial statements in accordance with the parent's accounting framework from the beginning, as they might have knowledge of it and group account. Here we are converting. Here we are converting. Here, no need to convert. Right from the beginning only, when you already know the framework, component auditor already knows that consolidation is, then why he will unnecessarily create the financial statement? Why he will, component auditor already knows that, why he will report unnecessarily under the accounting framework different? He will make sure that he component, that particular company component, is right from the beginning only preparing its financial statement as per the parent's accounting framework, so that later on we need not convert. Conversion problem will be resolved. So when the conversion problem will come, when the component auditor is unfamiliar with the parent's accounting framework. But when he is already familiar with the parent's accounting framework, what will happen? There is no need to, right from the beginning only. It is a responsibility of the component now to prepare its financial statement as per the group accounting manual or as per the accounting framework of the parent, right or not? And it will prevent the consolidation adjustments later on. Why? Here we were doing the adjustments. Here we will do the we were doing the conversion. That's why adjustments were required. But here our time of doing those adjustments will be saved. Why our time will be saved? Tell me now. So are we converting here now? No, we are not converting. Right from the beginning only we are preparing as per the accounting framework of the parent or not. So it will definitely save our time for the conversion, consolidation statements or adjustments or not. Yes, it will save the time here. It will consume the time here. Are you getting the point? Due to which adjustments will be eliminated. Due to which adjustments will be eliminated, and CFS auditor shall be able to check that financial statement as per the group accounting manual, and parent auditor can decide whether or not to believe the components audit. So it's a very simple thing. Very simple thing. The component auditor does not know the accounting framework of parent company. What is your answer? Then the component auditor is not going to do anything. Parent company must, for the conversion of the component auditor's financial statement, parent's accounting. After that, consolidation will take place, and auditor will apply his audit procedures on those adjustments done properly or not. But if the component auditor, the which auditor? Component auditor is already aware of parent's accounting framework, then in that case, right from the beginning only, component will prepare its financials as per what? Parent's accounting. It will eliminate what? It will eliminate consolidation. At which adjustments? Consolidation. And it will also reduce the time for the auditor. It will also reduce the time for the auditor to apply his unnecessary audit procedures on checking that consolidation. Is it also correct or not? And then auditor, then the parent auditor, or you can say that the CFS auditor can do as simple. So adjustments will be eliminated. CFS auditor shall be able to check that financial statements are as per the accounting manual, and he can also decide now whether he wants to use or believe the work of the company when the accounting different of parent. Then case number 4. What is the case number 4? So when the component auditor reports under different auditing framework as compared to the parents. When the accounting, when the component auditor reports a different reporting framework as per the, as compared to the parent auditing framework, then in that case what will happen? Then in that case, what, again, components generally accepted auditing standards, but the component has applied, what the component auditor has applied generally accepted auditing standards. He has to now do the audit in accepted accounting standards. Listen to this. In this case, what will happen? This case, order to maintain, in this case, in order to maintain the consistency of auditing framework and to enable the parent auditor to rely upon the code components financial class subsidiary. Are you getting? Now this components auditor might have audited as per the US gas What do you mean by GAS? Generally accepted auditing standard. Now, to maintain the consistency, help the parent auditor or to help the CFS auditor, it is the responsibility of the components auditor. It is the responsibility of the which auditor? Component auditor, that he do the audit, as per what? Indian GAAP. So that CFS auditor, remember one thing, component compromise always have to convert as per the parent. Parent will not bend his knees. Components. So again repeating, in this case, in order to maintain the consistency of the audit framework and to enable the parent auditor to rely upon the component auditor's report, components financially audited Indian GAS. If they will be audited as per Indian GAS, then only harmonized. Otherwise, clear everyone? Yes. Case number 5. What is the case number 5? Component. The component is not audited at all most of the time. Everybody thinks that that component is not audited because it was not important. Wrong and very problematic notion. That is very wrong misconception. It is a myth. That is not the way how you should look into. If the component is not audited, auditor should consider the unaudited in evaluating the possible effects of modification. EFS auditor does not reduce his responsibility by saying that key component is not audited. Okay, my response. No, your responsibility will remain same. So why it will remain same? Component is not audited now. Why? What should I do, sir? If the component is not audited, still you have a responsibility to check that is there any possibility of any modification or material? Is there any possibility of risk of material or not? You cannot rest even if the component. So auditor, which auditor? CFS auditor should consider unaudited in evaluating the possible effects. If it is audited, then it is certain effects. But if it is not audited, there can be a possible effects. Why? Because it's not audited means but it's unable to collect the audit evidence for that. It is not audited means but nobody has collected the audit evidence in that particular component. When the audit evidence has not been collected, you are unable to express. When you are unable to express an opinion, how you can be certain of material mistake? There can be a possible effects, contingent, may or may not, possible effects of modifications if any, because he was unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence on it, and components are clearly everyone. There are total 5 cases what we have done, the reporting responsibility. What are the 5 cases? When the parent and auditors component same, simple parent auditor or the CF opinion on the consolidated. Second case, when the parent auditor is not the auditor of the component, what is our answer? That is our answer. What is the answer? We have to think of 600 also. We have to think 0.56 also. The 600, we have to show that are we using the work of another auditor or not? Yes, if we are using component, we have to disclose the magnitude audited auditor and also that components set revenue, net income or profit or loss, and cash flows with respect to consolidated. So why we are doing that? So that the user of financial statement can understand the divided responsibility between me and the component. Here everyone? Yes sir, here. Now what if the components accounting framework different from the parents accounting? If the components accounting framework is different from the parents accounting framework, we all know that component has to change as per what? Parent. But there are two possibilities. If the component auditor is unfamiliar, if the component auditor is what? Unfamiliar with the accounting framework of parent, then it is the parent's responsibility to convert the components financials as per the accounting of parent, and consolidation adjustments will be done later on, and the auditor will apply his audit procedure check whether those particular consolidation But if the component auditor is already aware of accounting framework, parent, and the group accounting manual, in such case, what will happen? Such case, what will happen? This case, right from the beginning only, the component has to that financial statement as per the accounting framework of parent or as per the manual for elimination consolidation adjustment, and PFS auditor will smooth able to a financial statement whole, and mostly he will also be decide whether to use the component. This is a case number three. What is a case four? When the parents auditing framework, when the components auditing framework is reported under the different auditing framework as compared to parent. In this case, maintain the consistency and to eliminate any kind of problem. Then the components financial must be audited as the Indian gas so that harmonization. And case number five, sir, what if the component is not being audited? It doesn't mean that the consolidated financial statement auditor's responsibility is over. Consolidated financial statement auditor still has to consider what? Still has to consider that unaudited component, because there might be a possible chance of mitigation on modification because he was unable to obtain any kind of audit evidence. The possibilities of material. Are you getting the point? So that brings an end to the concept of audit of consolidated statements. I hope every one of you in the class have understood, or everyone who is lecture have understood the importance of this particular chapter. So that brings an end to our chapter called audit of consolidated financial statement. Right, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to this lecture again. I will borrow your ears again in our next talk. Right? See you guys in the next lecture. Bye, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Stay at home.